So I finally got done reviewing all the Silent Night movies. I've done these out of order. I think I started with the remake first, and then I did part one, and then I waited a year and did part two, and then this year I finally capped it off with three, four, and five, finished it. So now let's rank the franchise, all six of them, from worst to best. As always, let's get into it. Alright, so obviously, no shocker here. If you watched all six of my reviews, you pretty much know how this list is going to go. Alright, no shocking results here. Number six is Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Better watch out for this fucking movie. It's awful. Absolutely awful. It just looks terrible. It looks so damn low budget. And I can watch low budget movies if the story is good. This story is not good. This is just a low budget, shitty looking, terribly put together film that wastes Bill Moseley. They take the character of Ricky, who was very hilarious in part two, and make him basically a mute zombie that only utters like a couple of words throughout the whole film. I forget what he says, barely anything. The main actress and a lot of the actors in this movie are absolutely horrid, bad performances to be expected from movies like this. But yeah, just the pacing. Oh my god, this is the slowest of them all. It's just awful, absolutely, in every way. All the kills, no gore, all off screen, shitty characters, don't give a shit about anybody, hate the story. It's just bad. It tries to have continuity with the first two, but it fails. It doesn't make sense how Ricky went from being shot and dead to this guy in a coma with his brain exposed for some dumbass reason because of some scientific experiment of trying to connect brains and for reasons. I guess he wants to dive into the mind of a psycho like he's Dr. Sartain in Halloween 2018. Wants to find out what makes these crazy people tick. It's just stupid. It's just awful. Lackluster kills, lackluster everything, boring film. Part three is my number six. So there you go. Let's move on. Next up, this probably will be a little controversial, but I don't give a shit. My number five will be Silent Night, Daily Night Part 2. Is there a subtitle for this one? I don't think there is. It's just Part 2. There you go. Part 2, Garbage Day. That's really the thing that stands out about this movie is Garbage Day, that whole scene, really the last 15, 20 minutes, once he's breaking out of the asylum and he goes on that rampage, he's trying to kill Mother Superior. That's really the one thing this movie makes up for that part one didn't do. They kill Mother Superior in this one. They didn't do it in part one. That's a mistake because they make you hate her throughout the whole film, and then she doesn't die. This one's like, oh, we got you. We're gonna right that wrong right now, and they kill her. Awesome, decapitation, sweet, and they give her a really fucked up face. There's lots of weird decisions that were made while making this film, and the weirdest one and the most damaging one. That's why it's so damn low is their decision to put 40 minutes, at least, around 40 minutes of the first film in this film. So that's why it's so low. Like, I don't want to watch a movie where I have to watch the other movie again just to get to, like, just to get to part two. Like, I had to rewatch part one, basically all the highlights for 40 minutes. It's like, I'd rather just go watch part one instead of, like, you can't really do a good marathon here. You have to basically go from watching one, and then when you get to part two, you gotta, like, fast forward a bunch and that's just not good. All right, it's not a good sequel. I don't like that they reused 40 minutes. I'm sure there's a reason why. There's some story about why they did that, but yeah, that's why it's so low. 40 minutes that you have to fast forward through. That puts it low. But I love the performance by this guy, Ricky, played by Eric Freeman. Like his eyebrows, the way he like raises his eyebrows with everything he says. It's just hilarious. Just an entertainingly bad film. So bad it's good, but not good enough to make it higher on the list. And that's why it's number five. Next up will be Silent Night, Daily Night Part 5, The Toy Maker, with Mickey Rooney, the hypocritical man himself who hates Part 1 but stars in Part 5. So this one's about killer toys, and I really like this premise. It goes with the theme of Christmas. It goes back to actually having a Christmas story, unlike part four, and actually has a little bit of Christmas atmosphere to it, unlike part four. And two didn't really have a whole lot of Christmas atmosphere either. It had some, but whatever. I just like this evil spin on like Pinocchio. You got this guy Pedo who's making killer toys. It's just basically an evil version of that story, and the premise, it's just very cheesy goodness. Love it. Entertaining final act with the Pinocchio doll naked and trying to like rape his new mommy and shit. It's really funny. But the tone is a little unbalanced. It gets a little too dramatic at times, which was the biggest problem. And some poor writing and some bad dialogue here and there. So, nah, but I did like the Easter eggs in the film. There's lots of little Easter eggs about like Reanimator and stuff, and like Brian Yuzna films. Things that were in like part 4 are on like the wall in the film. So I like stuff like that. And the kills were pretty funny and all practical effects. There's the lightning, or I keep calling it lightning, but it's like electricity effect in the film that wasn't necessary, but all the kills were mainly practical effects and they looked pretty cool. So Silent Night Deadly Night Part 5 is my number 4. Next up is Silent Night Deadly Night Part 4, Initiation. This is the odd one of the franchise because this one is not Christmas at all. Like, the story has nothing to do with Christmas. It looks the least Christmassy of them all. So this isn't one that you would throw in around the holidays. This is one that you could watch, during the summer or any other time, really. It doesn't belong in the franchise, really. That's one of the biggest problems with the movie, is that it just doesn't really fit in this franchise. They should have tried to connect it to Christmas somehow more. If you're going to call it Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, try to connect it somehow to the theme of Christmas, like Part 5 did. The acting was a bit shaky in this one. I didn't really care for some of the performances. They were fine, but a little shaky here and there. And there's a very like heavy-handed sexism message in the movie that just felt lazily written. It wasn't subtle at all. It's just like, men are pigs, men are pigs. But looking past that stuff, I really had a fun time with all the practical effects in here. This was directed by Brian Yuzna. There's some pretty cool body horror, and the third act just goes nuts. It's absolutely wild, and there's giant bugs and cool looking creatures and worm things, and Clint Howard, and he's getting gutted at one point. Just really trippy rituals going on, and like a meat locker and shit. It's really fun. The second half really makes up for the first half, so definitely check it out. It's not as bad as everyone says. It has a very low rating on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, just like Part 5, but they're actually cheesy goodness that you can actually have fun with these movies. They're not terrible or anything. Not to me, anyways. So, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4 is my number 3. Number 2 will go to the remake, Silent Night. This one takes the more typical slasher approach where the bad guy is stalking in the background. He's picking off victims one by one. Doesn't focus on him. Focuses on this cop played by Jamie King. And you got Malcolm McDowell here. And a few other people like Donald Logue. There's a lot of good performances in here. This is honestly, it's the best acted one. It's the best looking one. The best made one, period, really. I really like Jamie King in here. I like her character, and just the look of the film, the atmosphere. It's really, really rich in Christmas atmosphere. There's not really much snow on the ground, which is odd for Wisconsin in December, but it's possible not to snow. But there's plenty of Christmas decor everywhere, Christmas trees everywhere. I'm a sucker for that shit. Like, if I'm gonna watch a Christmas movie, a Christmas horror one especially, I want it to look like Christmas. I want to see Christmas trees. I want to see the lights, all the colors, all the colorful imagery. That's what I want, and this movie gives it to you. But one problem I did have with it is that they basically make every character who's not the main character despicable. Like all the side characters, they're just throwaway. It's about the body count, and the kills are fantastic. They're gory, they're creative, they're mean. There's a wood chipper kill. There's callbacks to part 1 with the antlers. That's pretty cool. I like the little callbacks in here. There's a lot of them. Not so subtle, some kind of subtle. Like when he gives that kid, I'm trying to think, yeah, a bloody candy cane. It's kind of like in part 1 where he gives that kid like a knife or something. There's little subtle ones like that, but then there's ones that aren't really subtle. They're just kind of like forced. Like the grandpa who's catatonic, he starts like saying, Christmas is the scariest night of the year. Like, that didn't really need to be here. They just threw that in there. It was not even the main character's grandfather. It was just some side character's grandfather, one scene for like 10 seconds. I was like, okay, where did that come from? But anyways, getting back to what I was saying earlier, despicable characters. They're just all assholes. You want to see them die. And I can get one or two, but they make like every character just an asshole. You just want them to die. You got like a pedophile, well, not pedophile priest. He's into, young adults, young women. He's taking pictures of women's tits and shit. Like, you got despicable priest and this asshole. They're everywhere. Just horrible people that you just want to see get killed. But I do love that this movie kills a kid. I always talk about it, that movies never kill children, almost ever, but this one does. But at the same time, even though this movie does kill a child, she's another despicable character. That's another thing that movies do. When they do kill children, they always make them bullies or assholes first before they get killed. But anyways, yeah, I love the look of the film, love the killer mask, this different, take on the story, the flamethrower as a weapon. You don't see that a whole lot in slasher movies, flamethrowers. I love Jamie Kennedy, love just the kills. It's a fantastic slasher and a fantastic remake. It's not better than the original, in my opinion, but I still enjoy it. I watch it every Christmas, and you should too. It's great. Silent Night, number 2. Number 1 is the original Silent Night, Deadly Night. This movie is just so fun. It's so cheesy at times. The acting's not that good, but I just love this main guy they chose to play Billy. I love that this story focuses on Billy. It's like a character study. We see his childhood from age 4 to 8 when he becomes a teenager. The whole first half is just learning about this kid and the effect that this traumatic event had on his life. His parents get killed by a killer Santa, and then he's scared of Christmas throughout his whole life, and then one day he's basically forced to put on a Santa outfit or get fired, and he puts the Santa outfit on, and then he snaps. And it's just awesome. It becomes a slasher movie from that point on, and he's picking off people one after another. You got decapitation on a sled, you got the antler kill, you got Linnea Quigley butt-ass naked for like 5 whole minutes just running around. And it's just a blast. I just love it. And there's only like a couple of nitpicks I have with the film, really. There's a really corny, bad song that they play during this montage. It's so bad. But it's, amusing and funny at the same time. But it's a really bad decision to put that song in the movie. But this movie has some pacing issues towards the end with the whole cop, like, walking around the building. I just feel like that sequence drags out too long. It's trying to build suspense, but they really just run it to the ground. Like, he's walking around the building, and then he walks down this one area, and it just feels like it's a 5-minute segment. It doesn't need to be that long. That's really the only moment where the film slows down for me, but everything else is just awesome the way I want it. Love this freaking movie so much, and that's why it is my number 1. Punish. There you go. There's my Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise ranking. What is your ranking? Put it in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.